Anyway, I have a whole bunch of books here that I wanted to show you. This is well documented. The Alzheimer's Solution, Dean and Aisha Sherzai, the doctors, Dean and Aisha Sherzai, the doctors, are telling us how spices help with the small veins, the vessels in our brain. So it's very important to eat those spices. In the Dr. Funk's book, The Breast, she talks about how beneficial they are for combating cancer. Body on Fire, Dr. Aggarwal, who's going to be with us next month, she has a whole chapter on spices. It's fabulous. Dr. Greger and How Not to Die. We don't want to die of the things that we have control over. He talks about how important spices are, and I'll be going into a little bit more of that a little bit later. But then this wonderful encyclopedia on herbs and spices. This is fabulous, and it really goes into a lot of details on the benefits, not only the flavor enhancement, but the medicinal purposes of herbs and spices. So anyway, that's just a taste of what y'all are going to be hearing in just a few minutes. So Kathy, it's all yours.
And Debbie, Vicky's going to also put in a link to Dr. Greger's overview of spices and how powerful they are too. Okay, so Sam, how about if we take a look at one of the top choices of spices and herbs and seasonings that you use, which is garlic. And now we can listen to that lady. You love, at least that's what you told us on the Chat and Chew email poll. Thanks for your feedback, because we love garlic too. This is Kathy, and I want to share with you one way I do garlic. Now, I used to do garlic where I cut the top off the garlic and put oil on it, but I don't do oil anymore, and I cut it a different way. I cut it in the middle without going all the way through. That way you can squeeze out the garlic real easy. And I take that little garlic and close the top back, put it on parchment paper, wrap it up in foil, and then put that in the oven on 380 degrees for about 30 minutes or until you can squeeze it. And then when I do like a nice batch of it, I let it cool, and then I take it and I squeeze it, each little half, into the trays to freeze for later use, because all you have to do is pop out a cube and you're ready to go with garlic. But what can I do with all that roasted garlic? Well, Vicki, you have some suggestions, so why don't you tell us?
I do. You can do anything with it that you could do with normal garlic. You can mix it into your mashed potatoes, use it as a base for homemade pizza, combine it with mustard to make a good sandwich spread, add it to soups for a little bit of garlic flavor, mix it into hummus, add it to gravy. It really makes a great gravy. Add it to your favorite salad dressing. Toss it into your favorite Mexican dish. Use it in place of regular garlic for roasted garlic pesto. Rub it on corn on the cob. It also makes good garlic bread. It's already buttery texture. Just rub it on the bread, spread it on the bread, and then toast the bread. It's also good in salsa. And last but not least, just pop it in your mouth and eat it.
No wonder we love garlic so much.
We do love garlic.
Thanks so much, Vicki, and thank you for asking us about garlic. And we're going to ask you again about garlic. If you could use the chat box, and Vicki, I think you were going to put in a question for us for the chat box.
It's already in there.
All right. So how do you use garlic? Let's share that with the group too. Okay, so Laura, we're going to put you in spotlight. And you tell us now why, first of all, we like the taste, but why is garlic good for us?
Well, garlic has, as Debbie mentioned early on about all of the substances that we're going to be talking about today, garlic has some antioxidant properties and also some immune enhancing properties. We can use it to improve blood pressure, and it can also be used topically. It has some antifungal properties that you can actually rub on a fungal kind of rash and it will actually cure it. It seems to be related to the sulfur compounds that are in garlic. And so not only does it taste great, but it gives us all of these great properties to help us, have better health. Controlling blood pressure being the major thing that we can use garlic for. It is important to remember as we go through all of these things today, though, that eating all of these substances is a great way to get these properties, these healthful properties of these phytochemicals into our bodies. And it can be tempting to go to the health food store and see some of the supplements that are there. And while that can be okay too, just remember that with any chemical that is in a plant, even though it's plant-based, if we have too much of it, it can cause some harmful toxic side effects. So in general, I know that Brenda Davis, who is a plant-based dietitian, and you'll see some of her information in the cookbook that Debbie shared with all of us. She has a good rule of thumb that if you're going to go for supplements, large amounts can have these adverse effects. So try not to have more than 5 grams of any of these supplements if you choose that way. But as always, the best way to go about getting these healthful properties, chemical properties, is to eat them. And we just had some great ideas about how to have garlic ready for you to use in a variety of ways. And hey, just eating a cube, like Vicki said, would be great.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, Debbie, you're on. How else can we just eat them like she suggested?
Okay, well, this is super exciting. And I am, our first recipe is going to be the crowd-pleasing mushrooms. Now, if you are familiar with Dr. Furman, he talks about the G-bombs to have every day. And so those G-bombs, the M in the G-bomb is going to be your mushrooms. The O is your onions and your garlic, which is in the allium family. And by the way, Dr. Greger recommends that when you are cutting your onions and you're cutting your garlic, that you let it sit for 5 minutes before you do anything to it. Okay, because that activates the allicin that's in it, and that's the really good stuff. But on the mushrooms, I just noted that in mushrooms is ergothioneine, and that is an amino acid, and it's only found in mushrooms. Okay, and Johns Hopkins University is pushing that this ergothioneine, which is abbreviated to ET, and it's much easier to say ET than it is to say ergothioneine, especially like me, you may not be saying it correctly, but the ET may be the very next vitamin that is recommended. Okay, so it's very important. Now, how much ET do you need on a daily basis? Only half of a mushroom, and he said half of a button mushroom. But we all know that mushrooms are really great. They're very, very tasty. Just to let you know, mushrooms are not a fruit. They're not a vegetable. They're not a legume. They are a fungus. So, and some of them may be poisonous. So I always recommend that you do not buy them, or you don't go out foraging for them unless you know that foraging is going to be safe for you. Okay, I like Publix or Walmart or Sam's. I buy them from a well-known place. Okay, now this recipe is super, super easy, and I started it. What you have to do is you have to dry out your mushrooms. I use portobello mushrooms, and I have been drying them out just like this. So they have been cooking for a while, and I am going to remove them from the pan. And this recipe, I think it was one of the last ones in the book. And I hope y'all have the book, and I hope you've been able to download it and take a lot of notes. But this is really easy. Mushrooms are full of moisture, and because of that, they are very filling. And they are very diet friendly if you are someone who's trying to lose weight, because you can eat a lot of mushrooms and really not have too many calories. But they're also a good substitute for burgers if you want to have a mushroom burger and get the very large portobello mushrooms and grill those and put them on a burger. Super, super great. Okay, so you can see that it's kind of made my pan all sticky like. And what I am going to do is, first of all, deglaze the pan. And so I'm going to turn my fire up a little bit, and I'm going to deglaze this with vegetable broth. Since I poured this last night, I'm just going to stir it just a little bit. Okay, so we're going to deglaze that. And then I'm going to add my mushrooms back in there. Now, when you're doing the mushrooms, you want to make sure that the mushrooms aren't touching each other, because if they are touching each other, it's going to start sweating and you're going to steam your mushrooms and not dry them out. So I actually did some in the oven, and I put them on a cookie sheet that was lined with parchment paper. And I separated them so that they weren't touching each other. And I cooked them for probably about 45 minutes. And halfway through, I flipped them. And I will tell you, this is what's left. Now, what happens, because they are so full of moisture, they have the tendency to shrink. But the other shrinkage comes, if you're like me, you like to nibble on them also, because they're very, very tasty. So here was a very large box of mushrooms. I sliced them up and they kind of shrunk down. And I'm not sure how much was me eating and how much was actually the shrinking, because they are, the moisture is evaporating from them. So anyway, I have this. I'm deglazing the pan back here. And then the next thing I am going to be doing is adding some parsley and some garlic. And I wanted to show you.
A couple questions. Let me ask you.
Yes, go ahead.
What was the temperature of the oven when you did the 45 minutes in the oven?
Yes, 1 second. Well, I wanted to show y'all something. The temperature of the oven was 350, and you could probably go up to 380 or 400 and do well and just not cook it as long.
And did you put any
want them to,
on them?
I'm sorry?
Did you put anything on them at all, or just plain? Any seasoning?
They were just plain, and they were delicious. And I started with portobello mushrooms. Anything else, Vicki? Any other questions?
Right now.
Okay, good. Okay, so I wanted to show you this. I have a big jar of it, but it must be in the other refrigerator if my cameraman can zoom in. I use a lot of garlic and I use a lot of parsley. And so I chop this up in the food processor, and I usually have a container of it in my refrigerator at all times, so I don't have to chop on a daily basis. Okay, so I'm adding this to my pan, and I'm going to let the garlic cook just a little bit. What you don't want to do is have your garlic burn, and garlic is very tender and it will burn quite easily. Okay, so you don't want that. And so I'm just going to cook this a couple of minutes. And that smell is always awesome, because we know garlic smells tremendously. And so the last thing I'm going to do is add the mushrooms to this. And that can be put over pasta. It can be used on potatoes. There are so many ways that you can use this, or you can just pop them in your mouth like I've been doing all morning. Okay, so that's all the time I'm giving that, and I am going to pour these in. And I'm just going to let those saute a couple of minutes and let them absorb that juice. Okay, so I am going to let that cook for a couple of minutes there. And I'm going to start a new recipe. Vicki, are there other questions?
Somebody's wanting to know if you could use white wine in them instead of the vegetable broth.
I'm sure you could, and make sure you cook it. And you could also use like a Marsala wine as well, give it a different flavor. But yes, that would be very tasty.
Perfect.
Okay. So the next recipe we're going to do is going to be roasted garlic hummus. And we are, I actually used the garlic that Kathy recommended. She talked about how you roast the garlic. And here is half of the garlic that I roasted. I've used the other ones, but you can see that I cut the garlic in half and then I wrapped it, first of all, in parchment paper. And then I put tin foil on top of that. You don't want your food to be touching tin foil, okay? It's because it's aluminum foil. And we know that there are some health hazards with aluminum, okay? So I baked this while I was baking something else. And it's easy to have on hand. So this roasted garlic hummus can be used in many, many ways. It can, of course, be a dip. It can be used on, anything. What would you use roasted garlic hummus on? So please put that in the chat box. And while y'all are doing this, I'm starting with my vegetable broth. And I am going to pour that in. And that's about 4 ounces of vegetable broth. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I have the nutritional yeast that you put in here. Wait a minute, not nutritional yeast. I have cumin, and also with the cumin, instead of salt, I'm using Mrs. Dash herbs and garlic. So I'm adding that to the mix. I also have the roasted garlic from the recipe. And I like a lot of garlic. And so I'm adding several little pods to that. I'm also adding lemon juice. And then I have some silken tofu that I'm adding. And I wanted to show you what tofu I'm using. And this is the Mori New. And this is silken tofu. Okay. And this is shelf stable. And one reason why I like the shelf stable is, one, you don't have to have it in your refrigerator, but also it really lasts several months, which is very convenient for if you're using a lot of tofu. And then the next thing I'm going to do are my garbanzo beans. And I have been cooking my garbanzo beans in the Instapot. And if you haven't found how wonderful Instapots are, Vicki, I know you love Instapots. And I just started using them at the beginning of this year, and I absolutely love them. So anyway,
if my house were on fire, I would grab my Instant Pot on the way out the door.
Okay, I'm going to mute this while I blend it, okay? So hold tight.
And while Debbie's blending that, I got a big kick out of some of the ways you're using garlic. Let's see, Hope says she puts it on everything but ice cream. And Ken and Dorothy say they love it in soups and stews. And, oh, here's a good one. Garlic and used on crackers, veggies, and Mexican food. I liked the way, Vicki, you talked about that you could put it on corn. That sounded like such a good idea. And Julie said pizza. Yes.
Pizza sounds like a good idea too, especially when it's roasted and it gets that real mellow flavor.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
That sounds great. Anybody else do something else with their garlic? Especially roasted garlic, because I haven't done roasted garlic a lot. So if you've got any ideas, please put them in there. I'd love to. I've got all these ice trays full of roasted garlic.
And you don't know what to do with it, Kathy?
I'm learning.
Get to Debbie's house.
Yes.
Julie says that she uses it on pizza.
And that would be an excellent idea. And, you know, if you're making any type of sauce, you could add the garlic to it.
And once it's roasted, it's so creamy that you can use it as a spread right by itself. Like add a little bit of oregano to it or put it on a cracker. It's buttery textured once you roast it.
Debbie, what is the temperature that you roast the garlic?
I had it on 350, Sue.
Okay.
Okay, so here is my roasted garlic hummus. Nice and creamy, and this could be a great dip for vegetables. It could be a spread to use as a mayonnaise type for a sandwich. I just can't wait to dig into this roasted garlic hummus. And so then the last thing that I have, the last recipe. Oh, wait, I haven't done my mushrooms. How quickly I forget. Let me grab a bowl. The mushrooms have absorbed all of the sauce. And Angel, if you want to zoom in here. They have absorbed all of the sauce. They're coated with the garlic and the parsley. And look how yummy those are. Now, can you imagine that if you have pasta and you have like a cream sauce or, and we're going to be making a sauce in a little bit. We're going to be making a cauliflower cream sauce. So I'm thinking that I have a bowl of pasta. I'm going to be putting the cauliflower cream sauce on top and then the mushrooms on top of that. And it's going to be super, super great.
Like mushroom stroganoff.
Exactly.
Can you roast garlic that's already been peeled? You know, you buy that garlic that's peeled. Can you roast that?
I think so. I think you would do it the same way, to put the parchment paper first and then put and fold that up and then put the tin foil on top of that and fold it up and roast it just like that. Okay.
One thing Rami asked in the questions too, she was asking about the video where we cooked it on 380 degrees. How long? I just cooked it until you could squeeze it. And then I knew it was done.
Okay. And I will tell you that I don't think I cooked mine quite as long, and it was at 350. And because it doesn't squirt out as easily, I actually have to peel it a little bit. So it's a good indicator of when it's done if you can squeeze it out.
Debbie,
Okay.
One more question was, what types of garlics are best to use? Does anybody have an insight on that? Linda was curious about that.
Interesting note on garlic. I used to buy the great big garlic, the elephant ear garlic. And I remember one time I was in Publix and I was grabbing it, and another guy was grabbing 2 or 3 boxes of it. And I said, wow, that's a lot of garlic, because my big elephant ear would last me a long time. And he told me that he was Italian, and he told me that his wife ate one of those every single day. And I was like, oh my, that's certainly going to keep the phantoms away, the
werewolves.
The werewolves, exactly. Okay, so one more recipe in this section before we move on. And this is the creamy vegan ricotta cheese. And the recipe is super, super easy. It was the silken tofu. And then with the silken tofu, you add a little bit of non-dairy milk. And I use soy milk. And then I use the peeled garlic that was the top half of this was going in all of these recipes that I was making today. So I used the roasted garlic, and I put that in there with lemon juice. It calls for salt. I did not put salt. but that's your option. And it says basil to be served on the side. But I want you to see this, if you can zoom, love. So the ricotta cheese is the best that I have had that is non-dairy. And when I was making this and when I tasted it, all I could think about was I'm going to make a vegetable lasagna and I'm going to use this ricotta cheese. And so anyway, with that, I hope y'all try these recipes. They are all super, super easy. And Kathy, I'm sending it back to you.
Before I pick up, I just want to check. I've been looking at the chat here, and so I'm saving the chat because there's some good ideas here. Vicki, I don't know, did you catch some that we haven't said about using garlic?
No, I think we've covered all of them. It's spaghetti sauce.
There's
hot
one you
pepper, red
missed because I
pepper.
thought this was really cool. It was they used it in a savory oatmeal dish. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that one was really good. And garlic bread. Here it is. Tiffany told us that. And Cab 61 said they use it on garlic bread. Oh yeah, that would be super. And this pasta, the pasta sauce from Deb, a white sauce. That sounds excellent. So thank you so much on that. What type of ricotta cheese, Linda asked Debbie?
Well, of course, this is plant-based ricotta cheese.
Right. So you made it with silk tofu.
I made it with the silk tofu. And a lot of your recipes are going to call for your cashews. And so this is only made with tofu. And I promise you it's far better than what I've had with just the cashews or cashews and the tofu. So I like it better without.
Lot less fat. Okay, so
Exactly.
let's go on to the one of the tied for second place spices that you mentioned was cinnamon. And Sam, are you still there? Can you play the cinnamon video for us?
Yeah.
Good.
How do you use cinnamon in non-dessert dishes? For vegetables, you can sprinkle cinnamon over butternut squash when you just before you bake it, or add it to butternut squash soup. Indian cooking uses a lot of spices. Remember, Christopher Columbus tried to find a shortcut to India because India has a lot of spices that were desirable by Europeans. Any curry or masala recipe has cinnamon in it, as well as mulligatawny stew, which is a British-inspired Indian dish. And dal, which is lentil stew, and kofta, which is an appetizer, uses gram masala. Gram masala is an Indian spice mixture that has cinnamon in it. North Africa recipes often use cinnamon as one of their primary spices in the dishes. In Ethiopia, they have a spice mixture called berbere that contains cinnamon. That's all from the Cinnamon Minute.
Well, thank you, Ken, for giving us some background in savory ways to use cinnamon. And, you know, Dr. Greger says it's really important. Laura, why don't we put you in the spotlight and you tell us some other reasons why we might want to put some more cinnamon in some savory and sweet dishes.
Oh, absolutely. Cinnamon can help with glucose control. So whether you are worried about diabetes happening later in your life because you have a family history of it, or whether you are diabetic now and would like to decrease your medication, certainly eating some cinnamon every day can help with that. And it is, I often joke that if I'm eating a cinnamon roll, I'm helping my blood sugar. Which of course it doesn't. The sugar doesn't help. But at any rate, cinnamon is a good. It is as we saw in our cinnamon commercial. Typically, we think of cinnamon in a sweet dish, but really you can use it in a lot of recipes. You just heard about Indian cooking and African cooking, Mediterranean cooking. But certainly we add cinnamon to our tomato sauce also. It adds a different kind of flavor to your tomato sauce, depending upon how much you use. But that's an easy way to do something that maybe you're already eating. Adding that to your tomato sauces and things. And like garlic, it does have a topical use too. It can be used as a mosquito repellent, interestingly enough, if you use cinnamon, for that purpose. So, we don't like to use chemicals on our skin if we can. Certainly mosquito repellents, in order to be effective, seem to be pretty hard on our skin. So cinnamon may help with that. But anyway, eat your cinnamon, and a lot of people recommend a teaspoon a day. So, and you can have that in your daily recipes probably pretty easily.
Oh, that sounds great, Laura. I've never heard that about the
Yeah,
skin.
I hadn't either until I researched it.
That's
So.
fun. Okay. And I guess, Vicki, you've already asked the group about putting cinnamon in things, so
Yeah.
that's good. I just want, Ken's here. Ken, can you unmute yourself so we can just check with you on something? I had a question for you. Are you here, Ken?
Okay, I'm unmuted now.
Okay, good. We all do different things with lots of different spices, and you know a lot about international foods. And can I brag on you about what you and Dorothy do as a way to support your church, but also, Ken, I thought this was the neatest idea. And you add to it, Ken. You cook an international meal as a fundraiser, and so
Yes.
you learn all about it. Is that right?
Yes, we do, and we have an annual auction for a fundraiser at our church, and we offer a dinner, like an Ethiopian dinner or a French dinner or an Indian dinner or something like that, and then we tell them about all about it and the origins and that sort of thing.
That is so
And
cool.
this past year, because we were in lockdown, we offered carry-out dinners.
When there's a will, there's a way. Well, thank you so much. You really did a lot of research that helped us build that video. So thank you for doing that. And, maybe you need a purpose to try out some of these new spices. And Debbie, I think you have some new spices that have cinnamon for us too.
I do. Is my volume on? Yes. Okay. Yes, I do have some great spices, some spice blends. And the reason why I included these recipes in this booklet is because I get tired of spending a lot of money on spices. If you buy this small apple pie spice, that kind of rings a bell there. But if you buy this at the store, you may be paying $4 or $5 for this 1.12 ounces of seasoning, and it goes quite quickly. So I have a tendency to make my own spices, And of course, you have to buy the larger containers, but when you buy the larger containers, you are saving a whole lot of money. I mean, a whole lot. So this is my apple pie spice, and I kind of make it a little bit different, and I will be telling you about it, but I put this in my oatmeal every day, and basically a half a teaspoon every day, but I have it right there ready to go. And then another one, and you don't have the recipe for this, but this is what I call my joint health or my arthritis medicine. If I was Granny Clampett, I would call it my rheumatism medicine because it helps with those aches and pains. But this is half of it is ginger and half of it is turmeric. And then I put freshly ground pepper in it. The pepperine activates the turmeric, makes it 2,000 times more active with the pepperine than just plain turmeric. So I put a heaping teaspoon, and I mean a heaping teaspoon, in my oatmeal every day. So these spice blends. So I have 5 recipes, excuse me, 5 recipes for y'all. The very first one is pumpkin pie spice. And it starts with cinnamon. It goes to nutmeg, ginger, excuse me, ginger. And we know ginger is really an anti-inflammatory. It helps with the inflammation, and that's why it's so good in the joint health. What did I call it? The rheumatism medicine. Anyway, so the ginger has some great properties. And then in that is clove. Now, Dr. Greger talks about clove being the most antioxidant packed common spice. And it's packed full of flavor. A lot of people do not like clove because it has such a strong flavor. So I really recommend that you try it just a little bit and keep trying to add to it. And you can put clove in anything that has cinnamon, anything that has nutmeg in it, or anything that has ginger. Clove will blend with it, but it's going to be a pungent taste, okay? But that is your pumpkin pie spice. And by the way, last year I was able to make up several of these spices, and I jarred them and I gave them out as presents for Christmas. So Christmas is coming. If it's something that you enjoy, you can talk to your friends about how powerful these spices are. They're all natural. You know what's going into them, and they are really healing, but they also add so much flavor that it is tremendous to have them available to us. They are readily available at the grocery store. If they're not at the grocery store, you can buy them online or buy them on Amazon. And they're inexpensive, relatively inexpensive. We'll say that. So then the next recipe is going to be your apple pie spice. And I will tell you, I take this recipe and I add clove to it because I want that more bang for my buck. I only use a little bit because it is very pungent. But the apple pie spice recipe has cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, ginger, and of course, I add just a little bit of the clove to that. You don't have to. Your regular apple pie spice is what I have provided there. So the next one, we actually, yesterday in our practice, we had a conversation on how do you pronounce this. So garam masala. So, and I may be botching that up, but that's close. So this one has your cumin in it. It has coriander. Of course, this is an Indian recipe. And so cumin, coriander, cardamom. And if you haven't had coriander and cardamom, they also have a very powerful taste to them also. So be careful when you're adding to a recipe. Make sure you don't overdo it because it may be something you're going to not like as much. The very first time I tried this, I really was put off, and I thought to myself, if I had only used half of it, I would have been much better off than putting so much and really having to tippy toe through this recipe. So it also has black pepper, cinnamon, clove, and nutmeg. So that is a really great recipe also, but once again, it's strong. So I just recommend you trying maybe half of it to begin with and then add to it, because it's easier to add than to try to take away. Now, one recipe that Kathy really enjoys is the Chinese 5-spice blend. And this one has anise seed in it. It has fennel seed, cinnamon, whole cloves, and peppercorns. Now, you're going to have to put this in a bowl, or you're going to use a coffee grinder and really blend this up to get it nice and fine. And then what you may want to do is add it to a very fine sieve, or you can use a flour sifter and sift it through so it blends nicely, okay? Because if you're grinding all of these things up and then adding them together, chances are you'll have some that may be heavier than others. So by putting it in a sieve or a strainer, it's going to be easier for you to do. Okay, so that's your Chinese 5-spice blend. And then the next one, I had to throw in something Creole because I'm from New Orleans and Creole spices are my thing. So this Creole blend is very, very good. Usually Creole has a lot of salt to it. This one, I do not have salt. I use Mrs. Dash instead. So this has oregano leaves. It has salt. And again, I use the Mrs. Dash. It also has white pepper, red pepper, which is cayenne pepper. And everybody knows that cayenne pepper goes with New Orleans. It also has sweet paprika, black pepper, thyme leaves, basil leaves, and then whole bay leaves. Now you want to put this in your food processor or in a blender, and you want to blend it until it's pulverized, because you want to make sure those bay leaves are finely ground. And you can consume them, but you want, once again, you want to make sure that they're finely ground. And you know that bay leaves can be very tough. And by pulverizing them, you will be able to cook them down without any issue. Okay, so are there any questions with those?
Debbie,
Go ahead.
is there a certain type of cinnamon that you recommend? I know there's different kinds like cassia and Ceylon. Is one better than the other?
It's such an excellent question, Sue. And I will tell you what I read yesterday, and I'm not able to tell you the source right this moment. But the Cassion, or the one begins with the C, is the one that I walked away thinking that's the right one. And somebody else may be able to answer that better.
You know what?
Dr. Gregor promotes the Ceylon, Ceylon. That's what he promotes as the health promoting cinnamon.
Okay. And does he say why, Vicki?
He probably does, but I don't remember.
You know what we can do, Debbie, is we'll put in the chat, and also in the when it plays with the actual video when it goes on YouTube, we'll put the link to Dr. Gregor's video where he goes into detail about the different kinds of cinnamon, so you can learn from him yourself. That would be great. Yeah,
that would be perfect.
That I have is, what about organic? Is it better to go with organic or the conventional?
My answer to that is always, if you can afford organic, that's the way to go. But if you cannot, do not forego the cinnamon because it's not organic.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, and I was looking, let's see, Valerie puts her cinnamon in, no, she uses cardamom in her blueberry muffins that's by Kathy Fisher. That sounds like a good one to boost that cardamom up too. Okay, so Sam, are you still there and ready to put up our last one, which is sauces?
Yep.
Okay.
I know lots of times we have to have something quick, something easy. You need to get food on the table right away. Ready-made sauces, jarred sauces, canned sauces can help make that happen. Here are the few things that I try to have in my pantry at all times. This is really my favorite spaghetti sauce, marinara sauce, pasta sauce. I find it at Walmart, both in the store and online. It's oil-free, sugar-free, very simple, easy ingredients. It's organic, and it tastes like fresh tomatoes. It says that on the jar, and it's absolutely the truth. It does taste like fresh tomatoes. This is another one that I can get online, Vitacost, and there's some other places that you can buy it online. It's a good basic sauce. It's organic. It has no oil, and I know we have some people that avoid salt, so it also has no added salt, and it's tasty. This is one that I get at Aldi's, and they actually have two flavors, tomato and basil, and one that's just called marinara. It's very good. It's usually oil-free, but you do have to always read the ingredients. Sometimes it has oil, sometimes it doesn't. I have even had occasions where I've found it at one store in town, and it didn't have oil. At the other store in town, it does have oil. So you always have to read the ingredients, but it's very good. This one is at Whole Foods, easy to find at Whole Foods. It's their own brand. It's organic, no oil, no sugar. It's very tasty. It's good on anything that you would want to put any kind of marinara type sauce on. This one is Trader Joe's. I know a lot of us don't get to Trader Joe's very often, but this one is really good. And it's double good because it also has mushrooms, which are also good for us. It has no oil, and it's good on anything that you would put marinara or spaghetti sauce on. This is another Trader Joe's product. It's pizza sauce. I know a lot of people use marinara sauce for pizza, but this is a little thicker, and it really hangs onto a pizza good. It's oil-free, and it's very, very good. Some people love barbecue sauce, and this sauce is very good. It's bone-sucking sauce, and they have 3 different styles. There's regular, thicker style, and then one that's hot for people that like more hot. I tend to like the thicker style, and it's delicious. It's a little sweet, but it's very good. It's you can get it at Whole Foods, and you can also buy it at Lowe's. I know that sounds weird, but over in their grill department where they sell grills, they have a display that has bone-sucking sauce, and they also sell a bone-sucking rub if you like the spice part of it. Some soups can actually be used like sauces, and this is one that I do that with. It's Amy's split pea soup. It's organic. It's oil-free. I can buy it at Publix, and I also can find it online at Vitacost and probably other places. It's thick. It's really good and thick. I use it sometimes like gravy on mashed potatoes or to pour it on a baked potato. So it can be used, and there's a lot of soups that are thick enough that can be used like sauces. So sometimes look at your soups and see if there's any that you could use as a sauce. Those are some of the things that I use. I hope that helps.
That's really a great list of places you can find lots of sauces. Because, we're always looking for a good marinara sauce. And if you're sort of like me and you're wanting to keep the salt really low, sometimes the commercial ones won't work. So Vicki has posted Jeff Novick's fast food basic recipes. And if you scroll down, you can find his basic marinara sauce. It's really fast. It only takes about 10 minutes. And you can make it no salt, no sugar, no oil. And it's very tasty. It's got something Jennifer loves the most, which are the Mrs. Dash spices in it. So anyway, take a look at that. So tomatoes, though, were one of the common things. Laura, let's put you in the spotlight and find out why eat tomatoes. as sauces.
Absolutely. White tomatoes, because they contain a phytochemical called lycopene. Lycopene is a powerful antioxidant that is found in red vegetables and fruits, and tomatoes being one of the reddest. And so tomato sauce also. It helps to control blood pressure and lower cholesterol, and also may be instrumental in preventing certain types of cancer, especially prostate cancer. So there is definitely need to eat tomatoes and other red vegetables and fruits that contain lycopene. The other thing about lycopene is that it is considered a carotenoid. And carotenoids are generally precursors to vitamin A, although chemically that doesn't really happen with lycopene. So it doesn't convert into vitamin A in your body like other carotenoids do, like beta carotene and those kinds of things. So that's interesting. So when you see that the chemical property of a carotenoid, doesn't really do the same thing in terms of vitamin A nutrition, but its antioxidant properties are definitely helpful in all of those other things, including blood pressure and heart health and preventing certain types of cancer. So definitely enjoy your tomatoes and your tomato sauces. I love that list that Vicki provided. It's wonderful to be able to use ready prepared items that are so healthy and oil free and sugar free. So thanks for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you for helping today. Yeah, that was a great list. If there's anybody that knows where something is, Vicki's the one. So check with her if you're in doubt. Okay, so Debbie, you're going to finish up for us with another sauce with my favorite cruciferous veggies. Go for it.
Well, I'm doing that one last. That's going to be the grand finale. We have 2 of them, and I can do it in this short period of time. So y'all hang in there with me. The very first one is going to be corn butter. And corn butter can be used on bread. It can be used on potatoes. It's super good. And these 2 recipes can be made so quickly. And that is, we've got a short period of time. So let me just show you. I started with my roasted garlic, and it's in here already. And I am adding some lemon juice to this. And from beyond the lemon juice, I'm adding some tofu to this recipe. And so far, so easy, right? So all we had to do was squeeze some lemon and put the tofu in there. And now I'm adding corn. And Vicki, I know that you love this recipe. So while I blend, will you talk about what you use this recipe on?
Okay, I can do that. I like it. I know when I was a kid, my mother used to just cook noodles and have buttered noodles. This is very good as buttered noodles. It's also, I love corn just itself on potatoes, but this is great on baked potatoes. It melts and blends into the potato almost like real corn. It's very, very good. But the buttered noodles are great. You can put it on toast. Like it's a little softer than butter and it kind of blends into the bread a little bit more, but it's very good on toast. Gosh, what else? Anything that you would use butter, even for cooking. If you're using butter in cooking or anything like that, you can add this. Now, it's not going to taste exactly like dairy food butter. You taste the corn in it, but it is yummy. Try the buttered noodles and on potatoes. 2 best things you can do with it.
Great. And Vicki, do you use silken tofu or is that the other fresh tofu?
I use the silken tofu. That's just about the only thing I do use, just because it is shelf staple.
Okay.
Unless a recipe really specifies something different, I buy the shelf stable tofu.
Okay.
Okay, so was that fast enough? I mean,
good.
basically, you are blending it for about a minute, and you can see how beautiful this is. It's nice and yellow, almost like creamy butter would be. And the taste is very, very, very tasty. And as Vicki said, it's not going to taste like butter, but there's so many ways that you can use this. Okay, so Vicki, I want to know, have you ever frozen this?
No, I never
No.
have.
Well, I may
eat
have to
too
try
fast.
it and see how it goes.
I eat
Okay.
it too fast.
Our next recipe, because we only have a few minutes left, is going to be a creamy cauliflower cream or a cauliflower cream sauce. And this is, I wanted to use this because cauliflower is getting a lot of publicity these days. We know that it's a cruciferous, so it's going to be knocking those cancer cells dead in our bodies. And we should have cruciferous vegetables, at least 2 every single day, according to Dr. Greger. So I am using frozen cauliflower, and I've never used this before, but I wanted to do that with this recipe. And the next thing I am going to add is my nutritional yeast and my onion powder. And if you're not familiar with nutritional yeast, it has a great cheesy flavor. I like the cow nutritional yeast, and I usually get it in a large container. This is a medium-sized container. I like to get the great big one because I do use a lot of it. The next thing, it does call for lemon peel, so the zest from the lemon. And there are a lot of good nutritional elements, phytonutrients in the lemon peel. And it also calls for the lemon juice. So when you are zesting that, you want to zest it before you squeeze it. And the next thing, again, is going to be garlic and some parsley. So I have that already chopped. And I am going to add some cannelli beans, and maybe I'm not saying that right, but they're white kidney beans, and they really make a very smooth sauce. And my very last thing is going to be soy milk. And I'm just going to use half of this right now, and I'm going to see what consistency it is before I add it all in there, okay? So let me just mute myself.
Okay, she muted herself, and Ken, by the way, mentioned about what he uses, if you want to look that in the chat, for their tofu, and gave you some suggestions. And Vicki, did you respond to how long?
Yes, I keep corn butter. I really don't keep much of anything in my refrigerator longer than a week. Corn butter, about the same, and it might slide a day or 2. But I try to cut everything off at about a week. I think Laura would probably agree with that. Most anything you want to really look at a week is pretty much top.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Laura. On the blender, Clyde, she uses a Vitamix, and I guess it just depends on your blender. You know, I've learned that with blenders, you want to put the liquid in first, and then it's got a better chance of mixing it all up. So, you know, use what you've got and see if it'll work. It might be a reason for a new Christmas present to get a Vitamix, because they are big, they are expensive. Debbie, can you tell us, did you cook the cauliflower, or did you just take it frozen out of the freezer?
I did cook it. It says to defrost it for 2 minutes, but I actually cooked it.
Okay.
Okay, so I have my cauliflower sauce. I have some pasta, and I'm going to ask my cameraman to zoom in, and I'm just going to put this on top. Of course, this is not warm right now, so I will warm that up. But you can see how creamy this is, and if you were to have a big pot of pasta and it was hot, you could just fold this on top of it, okay?
Oh,
so
wow.
Kathy, I am just going to share once again everything that I've done here. We have our roasted garlic hummus. We have our ricotta cheese. We have our beautiful mushrooms, and I'm going to add, once I warm up our creamy cauliflower sauce with our pasta, I'm going to put the mushrooms on top, and then I have my corn butter as well. So this has been super, super great. We're almost out of time. Kathy, I'm going to give it back to you, unless there's any questions.
First of all, yay, Debbie, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. I can't believe all you covered. Now, Debbie, you're going to send a follow-up Eventbrite email, right? And it's going to have the link to the recipes, correct?
Correct. And it's also going to have a copy of the video, right? You're sending me the video?
I'll send you the link. Yes, I can send you
Yes.
a link to the video, because the video, thank you for mentioning that, it will be on the YouTube page. We're hoping maybe by tomorrow afternoon. We'll see. It takes a while for it to go up and everything. And I'm going to just share one last thing real quick, because I think it will probably.
Let me just add real quick too, the link to Debbie's cookbook is the first link that shows up in the chat. So if some of you didn't get the email or you're not on her email, the link is in the chat.
Great. Thank you so much. And I just want to show you this one last spice. We didn't talk a lot about cumin, and that was one that y'all recommended. This is black cumin, and I bet some of you've heard Dr. Greger talk about it. And I put it in my pepper shaker after watching his video. And I think, Vicki, you're going to put the link up for that. And it does have some wonderful benefits. It's supposed to lower cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, triglycerides, but it has a very bad negative effect, a side effect. It dents our appetite and causes weight loss. So you may not want to use that one. I don't know, but it sounded like a good deal for me. Okay, so we've got some things coming up, and I want to share that so you can see what is coming up. We are so excited. Eventbrite is now open to register for Dr. Monica Aggarwal. So you want to be sure and get your spot saved for there, because if you come on our Zoom, you'll be able to ask her questions. So that should be a good one. And will you put the link to that in the chat as well? If you aren't saving
It's there right now.
Okay, good. And now put up Debbie's links. Those are the 2 free classes that she's got coming up. She's been working with Veg Fund. So Debbie, can we put you back on Spotlight? And this will be the last thing we'll do.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you, Kathy. So I have a class that begins October 4th, and it is a 4-week series. And unfortunately, it is on Eventbrite, but it looks like it's 4 individual classes, but it's 4 weeks, and it's Let's Beat Breast Cancer Together. It is sponsored by Veg Fund. I'm trying Veg Fund out, and hopefully this class and the one I have in November, which is actually going to be on diabetes, Let's Fight Diabetes with Food, and those 2 classes are going to be free. If it works out, hopefully more classes will be free. But breast cancer is 4 weeks. Diabetes is actually 6 weeks. It goes through the first week of December. So hopefully we can get everybody through the Thanksgiving holiday without going drastically off a diet. So those are coming up. But also, Kathy, I need to announce November 4th is going to be Dr. Neil Barnard. And I know Chat and Chew and Poke Wellness Professionals are hosting this together. And I am super excited about that. You can also register for that on Eventbrite as well. So thanks, Kathy.
Great. And Debbie, is it okay if they share the link to go to your website to sign up to get the cookbook? Can they do that too?
Oh, yes. Yes, most definitely.
Okay. Thanks for asking that, Deb. Okay. So just a special thank you to our presenters, Debbie, of course, and Laura Goolsby, and also Vicki and Ken. We really appreciate your videos to kind of get us centered on what we can do. And a special thanks to all of you who came today. Your response in the chat really showed us that you were tuned in and this was a topic you wanted. And that's what you said in our newsletter. So we went over 4 minutes, but we made it, Debbie. So thank you again.